Yes, I have known some actual mystics in my life. Women and men on the edge of the world, and sometimes at the edge of themselves. Beings who were cave dwellers, if you will, fringe dancers and edge walkers. People at the edge of circles and spaces. People who were perfectly content to be by themselves for long stretches of time. People who had visions and dreams and poetry and saw an alternate reality. Their mysticism wasn't based in a set belief system, although many belief systems informed who they became. Most of them were savants and philosophers, artists, musicians. People who chose that they were not going to do life the way life was being dealt to them. They said, I want something different for myself. But maybe they didn't say it like that. Maybe they just couldn't bear to conform and fall in line with the structures the man was requiring. What we're doing is not an accidental arrival at a mystical space where we suddenly realize we're on the edge looking in. What we're doing is a chosen path. Whether you have identified as mystical or a mystic or ever had a mountaintop experience where you've heard the voice of the divine speak to you or through you, or you felt that raven on that branch was actually communicating to you, or all those times and places and spaces where the whole world seemed to light up and speak directly to you. Whether you identify as a mystic now or later isn't really the point. It is, however, the archetypal energy in the portal of these times when beings are spiritual, intuitive, sages, and psychics who also have to exist inside the framework of the day-to-day life and experience. No one can define what a mystic is for you. Some mystics are philosophers and entrepreneurs, and some are healers, and some are hermits. It doesn't mean one particular thing. It's something you feel within yourself. And in our case, it's something that we're choosing. We're choosing to walk a mystic path. So that is the mystic archetype, which will arrive eventually in the process of the painting and the poetry. But that mystic path also means the path of mysticism. And that is going to be whatever it is for you. Intentional creativity is the practice, the direct application of living a lifestyle that says, I'm shaping my reality with my language and with my energy. I'm infusing everything I create with the power of my love and my presence and my story. Mystics, the ones that I know, have creative spiritual practices. These practices create continuity. And when the mystics that I've known do not have the continuity, there can sometimes be a sense of feeling a little crazy, a little taken in or taken over by the circumstances of life. The rituals and the practices and the processes sort of bracket us in such a way that we can navigate the material. There has to be a place for that material, which is coming through the cosmos and coming through our consciousness, to actually arrive somewhere. And in our case, that arriving happens on a canvas and in a journal. It happens in dance and drumming and prayer. It's giving the energy and the ideas a place to take on form so that it can be related to. It makes me think of Einstein when he is a young man imagining riding a beam of light, and the beginnings of the theory of relativity come through to him. It's the beginnings of Carl Jung's work, where he used image and language in the Red Book. And he said that everything that was in that Red Book, that was the numinous beginning, and that was everything. And everything else, like all of Jungian psychology, everything else, he said, was merely an outer classification of what happened he said there was so much information. He said more than enough information, so much that would threaten to break me. More information than one lifetime. I remember reading that quote at the beginning. That wasn't the exact quote, but at the beginning of the Red Book, and feeling like, oh my gosh, I have more than enough material for one lifetime. But I've been living it out. I've been living it out in particular for the past 17 years, through teaching courses, through developing curriculum, through creating structures for mystics, literally, structures for artists, pathways, practices, schedules, formulas, communities, sacred containers, so that we can get the material that is hidden within us expressed, so that we can relate to it. If it only remains an energy and an abstraction, it can be challenging to even navigate this world. Like bringing the mystical through to the physical, the energy through to the matter at the speed of light, allows us to exist on the edge and sometimes come to the middle, to be in the fringe and sometimes come into the center and not be on the fringe. Mystics who can integrate, which is hard sometimes because a lot of us, including me, I know it might not seem like it, are a little introverted. I don't know what to talk about at parties and stuff. If we're not talking about saving the world and painting, I kind of don't know what to say, So there's also sometimes an awkwardness to those of us who are carrying a mystical thread running through our wild hairs. So for me, intentional creativity is the path of the mystic. It is the direct and, yes, logical application of the spiritual content that's flowing through us. When you make an illustration, sometimes, like here's an illustration for Path of Mystics. These are the practices that we're doing this year. This is an outward expression of an inward experience. It has the quantum temple, the cosmic connection, Muse mystical tea, elemental altar building, phases of the moon, the council, a book of poetry, the wheel of the year, the painted portal, journeys to inner space. Did I say book of poetry? Book of poetry, nature walks, sense of place, inspiration, divination, revelation, and invitation, rhythm, rooted connection, and cosmic connection. So that is an outer classification of an inner knowing about the kinds of practices that I love to share and to give and to offer to others. I'm going to show you another illustration. Here's another illustration. This is an example where I'm just moving the pen and listening and letting these wild creatures come out. Most of them are kitty-like. And when I'm doing the illustration, information comes. I was thinking about the Swedish artist who was really the first abstract expressionist, Hilma af Klint. And they used to practice automatic writing and automatic drawing. They were taking dictation from disembodied beings, like spirit beings, and I don't do that. But more like I'm taking dictation from within myself, right? Like I'm receiving the information from my highest soul space. But sometimes it looks like this, right? This is from my class, Stardust Bones. And this is mapping out the material. And it says things like new roots from ancient roots, new constellations from ancient stars, an ancient, futuristic, emergent culture. Grow your root system in common ground. Reclaim your gifts, a chosen lineage, revival of earth honoring, common spiritual practices. It's really this way of bringing information and making it into form so that it can be expressed. Here's an illustration which sort of sums up that idea, right? There's a being. She's got her head not only in the stars, but there's a root system and a flaming heart. She's got a dove and bees and butterflies. She's holding sacred information in her hands. She's got a pomegranate, earth wisdom, and her faithful kitty. As I'm drawing, the information that is intended for me at that time starts to come through to me, and then I take action on those ideas. Sometimes an illustration looks like this. And the one I'm working with right now is the mystics, the council who's gathering, the path of mystics. So we use books and we use canvases. Here's a canvas I'm working on right now. And pretty much everything that goes on in my life and experience gets entered into the canvas. And I work on a canvas sometimes for an entire year. Everything that happens, all the blood, sweat, snot, and tears goes into it. So for the mystic, the painting and the notebook hold the grounding of the energy, bring it into form so you can relate to it. And the cool thing about that is that energy equals matter at the speed of light. So your thoughts become form in works of art. And when you observe and interact with them and receive information from them, you think again in response, and that is then a return to energy. So there's a circuit. And this circuit, once you're in it, is so mystical. And I'm going to complete this with a story. In 2014, I was at the Louvre with Sue Hoya Sellers and Jonathan McLeod, and we were going to see Mona Lisa. Sue loved the Mona Lisa. I don't know what it's like on other days, but this particular day, there was so many people there that you could barely move. She was just like being swallowed up by these people. She was just kind of overwhelmed. Finally, she was going to see Mona Lisa, who she called Gioconda. And actually, she gave me this sculpture, which sits always with me. Gioconda. Every time she'd walk by, Gioconda. And so here we are in this moment, and I'm concerned for her because she was actually having some sort of spiritual or health event. And she turned to me and I said to her, all of these people are here for her, and we are too. And then somehow the ocean of people eased up and we moved out of resistance and we floated to the front. I'll never forget, because it was a moment where she said, is it raining in here? She was having some big lifetime experience in that moment, and she passed not too much longer after that. That was in July. She walked into her future in September. So she was in the process of her departure, or what we call walking into your future here. It was a mystical moment, even with everything that was happening, to arrive at a place where she had been always working toward this Mona Lisa, this masterpiece. And what I'm here inviting us to is to create our own masterpiece, our own Mona Lisa. Sue felt like that about that painting, and she has a painting of her own that she felt like that about. And I have one that I feel like that about, which is the image of the Stardust lineage. I want you to have that too, a masterpiece, not because it's about great painting, but because it carries everything that matters to you. So, will you? Will you paint with me and draw with me and write with me? I kind of do it as if my life depends on it. You don't have to take it that seriously, but most mystics I know are both playful, a little bit tricky, definitely mysterious, and also kind of stubborn. We'll see what happens.